Hey guys, doing a bit of a video. I've done the spark plugs before on the Elgrand. And it's a white rider kind of Elgrand, you get the idea. It's a E50, kind of last year they did it, 2001. So it's got the 3.5 litre QV 35DE in it. But today's job is replacing these little babies from the steering. So the steering boots, and you can see in here, along with my fingers pointing, sorry it's hard to get this camera in, it's pretty big. So that's the steering gear all in there, the hydraulic kind of ram and power steering. So that's the power steering rack. And then it comes out to, I'll take this little cover off for now, breaking off the tie-ins. So they basically, that baby sits up and through there, upside down like this. Through that hole. You get the picture of them one-handed, so I can't really put it in. But basically on the, your steering gear, where it all holds onto the wheel and all comes together. First job is getting that broken. They're pretty tight. Like this one's probably not been removed for a fair while. So the easiest way is the nut that comes off the bottom. When you undo it, you've got to kick it, get the right size spanner obviously, and from underneath the bolt sits there. It's got a pin clip through it. On this one, I never know where it is, but it's not much left of it. That's all that's left of it. So you can see in the bottom of the screw, sorry, camera skills aren't very good, there's a hole there through the tie end, and that has a little clip to stop the end nut coming off. So when this baby is in there, sticking out the bottom here, I kick the nut free with the right size big spanner, and once it's free, about 4 turns say, pull out the old persuader. Here's my persuader, and I just belt it straight up with the nut on, because these nuts are almost designed to be belted. Not really good zoom with this camera either, but you can see the bottom of it, it's kind of like star shaped like that. So really good spot to hit it, as you don't wreck the thread. The thread's fine, you can give it a fair beating. So I put a little bit of WD on the seal just in here, so when this was in there, spray a bit of WD and that kind of stuff in there. I walk away for 10 minutes, find something else to do, and come back. Hopefully that soaks in and gets in there a little bit. Pull your pin out, undo this baby about 4 turns, 3 turns, whatever, and belt the crap out of it. It takes a fair bit of persuading, even with the mighty persuader over there. So at the moment I've broken both the tie-ends out. I've cut the old boots off. They're both about the same. They were both in 2 parts. So they ripped quite deep into where the steering rack is. And they've probably been that way for a fair while. These they're not so spongy and rubbery anymore. They're pretty worn. So I'd guess these are the original. So on this thing you're looking at about 15 years now. The main reason to bother doing it is first get under your car and have a look, see what the condition is like. Because once these things are split, all they do is hold sand and grit and everything in there. And I don't know if I can get the camera in there right, but if I pull it, I'll give it a yank on the steering, get it this way a bit. But you can see the shiny bar in there, down in there. Nice shiny little bar. It's like a hydraulic ram going through, and that's the steering rack. And the last thing you really want to do in your steering rack is have grease and crap getting into that seal. You'll start getting leak. It'll start leaking the power steering fluid all over the joint, and if you let it go to that stage, you're in for easy $2,000 job. Replacing the actual steering rack, the cheapest I've seen is about $600 with including put delivery on top of that, and that's for a second-hand Rico one. So I'm guessing they're a few $1,000s new. So the last thing you want to do is let a $30 part like that go too long. Unfortunately, I had this thing serviced. I had a little bit of a flutter going on in the accelerator. Still haven't quite worked out what it was, so I'm changing the plugs again today and giving it a bit of a clean engine-wise. But I kind of, doing other jobs, I got under the car and had a look and found both sleeves, because there's one on each side of the steering rack were totally split. So, you know, this was not serviced that long ago, so it's pretty shonky, and the few times I've given this to a garage to just do basic oil changes and stuff that I'm too lazy to do, no one's ever reported back to me that I've got a problem. So I don't know whether they wait for it to go on me and then give me the bill for $3 and they're all excited to do the job or not, but yeah, pretty surprising. Normally, you know, servos, people, garages pick up stuff like that. Anyway, let's get on with the job. Job at hand, getting these little babies from Nissan. I couldn't find anything in Australia, and after looking for a week or two, and I was going to get one ordered in, like a set ordered in, and then a few came up on eBay, and they weren't that much, about $15 each. But to put this baby on, once you break your tie ends off, you've got to unscrew them here, and that throws all your alignment out. As a DIYer, I'm not really that keen on alignment. I don't have the gear here, and there's no way you can do it by eye. You know, my old 180B, I used to do it by eye. Who cares? But tyres cost too much these days, and you don't want to scrub them out and, you know, have all the wobbly steering wheels and all those issues. So I've done a different way. I've got a different way to do this job. So what I got was this little kit, 50 bucks, Rack-A-Boot. Now, I'm in no way affiliated with them at all. This is the first time I've ever tried one. But in the box you get 2 of these babies and some, you know, 5-cent cable ties. You can see they have a little oil fill thing here. But at the end of the day, these slide over. Like, I don't know if I can show you the back, the instructions. But basically, what we're going to do is get our tie rod and put that up. And then we basically put this sleeve, which is just a plastic sleeve. It's really hard to do it one-handed, but use your imagination. That sleeve's been put over there. And then once the sleeve's on, you can get one of these babies and basically slide it over. Because this sleeve, you cover it with grease or engine oil or whatever you've got lying around to make it super slippery. And then the boot, steering arm boot, can go straight over the top, and you can drag it through. Like, this is the theory. My camera's about to run out of battery, so I'm going to have to do this video in 2 parts. But the theory is you can, drag this baby on, which means I don't have to undo the tie end here, which means no alignment. So pretty much this job is going to take me not too long. I'm estimating 15 minutes. It took me 10 to get these off, but it's actually taken me longer just to take the bloody tyres off, you know. That's the biggest job with one of these things. So if this baby works, the Rack-A sock or whatever it is, slide it straight over, push it, you know, slide it all the way up. You've got a few different sizes. On the Elgrand, I'll have to cut all those little... Alright, I'm back with a new battery. Now, with the old Rack-A-Boot system, you can see that. You can zoom a bit now. Yeah, so you basically get the idea. You put the little booty thing on and all that kind of stuff. So the boot over the tie end here went on really easy. A little bit of oil lube. I just had 2-stroke oil lying around, so I doused it in a little bit of 2-stroke oil and then slid her on. Get into the front. Of course, I'm doing all this on the ground, which is really annoying. Hoisted. Beautiful. I might get one for Christmas. And now you can see I've attached it there with a zip tie, so now I have a new boot. Yeah, so pretty easy. It's surprising. As long as these boots last more than a couple of years, then I'm happy as Larry. That's a really good, easy way to do a pretty nasty job. So now I've got the other side to do. See, it's all shiny up there, all exposed. So I've just got to clean them down a bit and do the same deal. Put the sleeve over the end of the tie rod there, and just there's the boot over there on the ground, slide her on. So you know, nice easy job, considering lying on the ground is not one of my favourite things. But so with the actual boot for the steering rack, I ended up cutting it there. So I cut the first, that was too restrictive, too small, so I cut it there, and that's pretty much perfect size. It was actually a bit of a push once that was cut off to get it on to, you know, where it locks on and where you put the cable tie on. So look, really happy with that. It's 50 bucks off eBay. They feel good quality. You know, they're pretty tough, and surprisingly they can slide over things like that through that tiny little hole, and it didn't rip. I was a bit worried about it ripping, but that whole hooba-dooba and that little hole, the only part that was a bit difficult, not even really difficult, was getting it over this hump. But as long as you stretch, so when you're putting the boot on, pull this arm, I can't use the other arm, I've got the camera in it, but if my other arm was here, I'd be touching this up this end, sliding it along, when you've got, of course, you've got this slippery rack on it first, but you know, in the end, it went on without ripping, which is the main thing. So yeah, so really handy. Now I don't have to do any steering alignment. I'm going to slide this one on the other end, and you know, job done. Too easy, probably all up less than half an hour to change 2 boots, and possibly saved me a couple of $1,000 if I'd left that, you know, the main steering rack exposed to dirt, debris, and it was full of sand like the old ones. I don't even know where they're going now. They're rolled down the driveway or something. Dog ate them. But yeah, the old ones were pretty knackered, and inside was just full of grit and dirt. So there you go. So now that it's slid on, cable tie, pretty simple. Put my tie rod back up, put my pin through, and put my bolt on. I'm going to buy new pins for where they go through there, because they're pretty shitty and old. They're only $1 each or something. So new pins on, tie back on, job done. Yeah, I reckon if you were going for it, obviously I'm mucking around filming stuff and whatever, but I reckon all up, yeah, half an hour job, and without too much sweat. It's pretty hot here today, so I'm sweaty, but yeah, look, really happy. Good on you, bracker boot or stretcher boot or whatever you are, good on you. Job done. So after this one, I'm actually got a few more jobs to do. I found, I might film it just for the hell of it. These things make some banging noises. And where are we? This is the air conditioner tension pulley. And it's making a bit of a squeal when the engine's running and that's spinning at high speed. I think the bearings are dried out and they're a little bit crappy, so that's another job I'm going to do, and once the part turns up, so I'll film that one. There's 2 different tension pulleys. There's one that's near the power steering, and this one's for the air conditioner. They are basically just the bits where all the fan belts come out of the crank and everything. These things just push against the belts. They push up into the belts to keep them tight. So there's nothing really mechanical to it. It's just a ball bearing with a wheel and your adjuster. And I'll just say it in case I missed it on the last video, but to get one of these off the car, if you have a look in the bonnet, look at all your fan belts, you'll see where this one sits. I can't be bothered opening the bonnet, it's all locked up still. But yeah, I found that it has this adjuster hooba-dooba on the back, which you'd assume I'll just unscrew that, and that'll move the pulley, you know, slide the pulley up the casing here, so the fan belt's loose and I can pull this little baby out. Well, that's not the case. You have to undo the front bolt first. This front bolt on the air conditioning pulley actually holds the whole thing together. So you're going to strip this, or bend it, and I must admit I actually started trying to do it just doing this without doing the front bolt before I realised I'm going to break something. So instead of breaking something, you undo this bolt first, and it's a pretty shitty little bolt. The zoom's not very good on this camera, but pretty shitty. You can see I've you know, had a bit of a go at it, and it's not looking like the prettiest bolt anymore. It'll do the job, but to get it off, it was pretty stuck. Again, I don't think it's ever been pulled off the car, and it's not a very deep nut, so you've got to kind of be careful. But undo this one first, and then you'll see when you're sliding under the car, you can undo this one, and that'll take the tension off all the belts. Then, you know, it's pretty simple, 4 screws. But look, that's a job for another day. I don't even have the part today. I just pulled this off, so there's no air conditioning in the car at the moment. But hopefully that'll solve the, sound like, you know, an animal being murdered under my bonnet some mornings. Once it was warm, it was okay, but yeah, when it's cold, it was making some horrible noise, and even if I spin this at speed, it doesn't actually sound very good. It sounds a bit clunky. So that's another job, and today for the rest of the day, hopefully not the rest of the day, I've already done a change your spark plugs, but yeah, that's the next horrific job. So I'm trying to make my hands smaller by coating them in all sorts of horrible chemicals while I'm doing this job, like WD-40 and shit. Hopefully my hands get really slippery and small, so I can get in there and do the spark plugs. But anyway, that was doing the steering boots. Pretty happy with the racker boot system. Yeah, good on you. So this is the bearings. It's 2 sets that go on the tension belts for the air conditioning and alternator fan belts. This is the one off the air, this is the air conditioning one. It's quite light. It has one bearing inside, and this one, a lot heavier, goes on the alternator fan belt, so it creates the tension on the fan belt for you. And you can kind of see in there it's got 2 sets of bearings. So I'll just read out what these ones are for my own notes and for anyone else's. So the main bearings for the alternator side, which is the heavier side, is, it says NTN, it's like the brand name almost, and then it's got TMB, I believe that is, could be an 8, or TM8 301LU or ILU. So pretty bloody stupid, the codings on them. So TM8 301LU, and the brand name was NTN, made in Japan bearings. So that was the alternator one. Now the other one for the air conditioning side tension belt is brand name, looks like NSK. Then we've got a little 504 written, and then looks like the main serial is 6301DULX. So 6301DULX. And that's only one, so you need one of brand name NSK 504, then the serial looks to be like 6301DULX, and you need 2 of the ones for the alternator side, which was NTN MT8 301LU. So you'll need 2 of them, as you can see inside there. It's got 2 sets. So I'm not even sure these can be pulled out, but you know, they look like it, so there's no point in buying the metal casing for it. And these have that bracket which has got the adjuster to make the tension, and when they go together they have a little cup. So first is a little cup goes on, bearing goes on, so then bearing, cup, bearing. This is the one for the air conditioning side. Then that washer, then it has like a faceplate washer, so that goes on after that spacer washer. And then if you can find it, you've got these flimsy little nuts. So remember, when you do put these back on the car, don't do this nut up tight, leave it just loose, otherwise you won't be able to get the tension right to make your fan belts not, you know, nice and firm. I found on the fan belts, the best I can come up with is when you're tightening this one up, tighten this one up first. That's the last one to do up and the first one to undo to get these things off or belts tensioned. So that's loose, and then you screw this one all the way up until your belts are really tight, and enough so that when you grab the fan belt at any point you can just turn it sideways. So if the fan belt was coming off here, if you can just turn it sideways with, you know, but it's pretty hard, that's about the right tension. There is proper tools for tension, but you know, this ain't rocket science. If it slips, do it up tighter. So yeah, to get them out of the car you don't really need to take all this bracket off. I just did. I wanted to have a really good look at this one because it was squealing a fair bit. So these are a sealed bearing unit, so there's not much I can do with these. I pretty much, you know, they need replacing because I think it's actually, I thought it was the fan belt pulley that was causing my scream, but I think it's actually this one. So one of the sets of bearings in this is pretty much gone, which is, you know, putting a load on the engine, wasting fuel and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just thought to give you the part numbers that I got out of a E50 Elgrand with the 3.5 litre QVDE engine. So I can't really get right down in to show you where all the fan belts were, but you know, they're all pretty much down in there. I cut the air conditioning one off because it was totally rat shit, but there you go, part numbers and roughly how to put them together and whatnot for your air conditioner pulleys.